The Solitaire Series, Episode 21, The Ten of Spades, by Troy Lambert. Narrated by Troy Lambert. Copyright 2020. Audio copyright 2025. Part 1. Outside of Los Angeles, 1968. Jack Bardlow tried to approach the hole and the man digging as quietly as possible, but it wasn't really necessary. Clearly the man was preoccupied with his work and quite unhappy about it. "Fucking dirty dog, hole-making son of a bitch," the deep voice shouted. A particularly high-arching shovel full of dirt followed. He pulled a service-issued .45 from its leather holster and racked the slide, chambering around. Shoveling stopped with the sound of metal burying itself in dirt. "Who's there?" He didn't answer, just stood perfectly still. He crossed his hands, his right one holding the pistol in front of his left one, and set his feet shoulder-width apart. "Who the fuck is there?" Silence. Bird chirped in the trees, seemingly unaware of the drama unfolding below. "Don't make me get out of this goddamn hole!" Jack allowed himself to smile, but only slightly. This encounter could go only one of two ways. "Imagining sounds. Great job, Gary. Just get this fucking thing done." Gary went back to work, and Jack stepped around the hole. Next to it was a long object wrapped in black plastic and green twine. Knots were expertly tied, the thin rope tight around the curves of what certainly appeared to be a well-wrapped human body. The smell was weak, but unmistakable. Sticky, sweet, rotting like a bunch of bananas left on the counter much too long, then tossed in a compost heap with coffee grounds and rotting eggshells. That mixture was good for gardening. The human body was not, contrary to popular belief. Many of the gases given off by a decaying body were toxic to most plants, only useful for a select few. The green of cemeteries was due more to golf course-type maintenance to offer comfort to families. It hid the real truth of what lay beneath the earth. Boxes, many of them elegant and well-sealed, that nonetheless held decaying relatives, both old and young. Jack had seen both die in Vietnam, and if Uncle Sam had his say, he would be headed back that way again soon to not only see more death, but to bring it to people who often didn't understand what they were fighting for. He fingered the ace of spades in his pocket, then pulled it out and tossed it into the hole. The spinning card struck Gary in the temple and then fell into the pile in front of him, face down. "What the?" He spun, holding the shovel like a rifle at the ready. "Hey there," Jack finally spoke. He had a smooth voice, one that people often said should belong to a radio announcer or a used car salesman. Jack had no idea what he would do after the army, if he survived the goddamn war, but both those were definitely on the short list. "Jack?" "Pick up the card, Gary." Gary's lower lip trembled as he turned to grab the fallen card. Jack saw his hands were shaking too. "Good." Gary turned it over, looking at the face. He dropped it in the dirt. "Jack, no talking right now. Where is it, Gary?" "Where's what?" "You know goddamn well what. Where's the other card?" "I don't—" Jack raised his pistol and fired. The handle of the shovel splintered just inches from Gary's hand. He could see where a splinter scraped the man's forearm, and the shovel fell in a graceless arc to the floor of the makeshift grave. "Gary, do you think they would have sent me if they were fucking around? I'll ask where the card is one time, and if you don't tell me, I'll have to find it without your help. But I'll be very disappointed by that." "Jack, please. Think about where you're standing before you say another word. Please, Jack, just listen. I have a proposition for you. But I'll give you the card either way. Swear to God, just hear me out." "Talk." Jack had no intention of entering into any kind of agreement with this scumbag, not when as much was at stake with his employer. He could either come home from Nam with a fortune and start his own business, spending the money over years and leaving his wife in good shape when he passed, or he could come home in a box, and likely they would get nothing at all but a folded flag. Besides, he knew what this card meant, the Ten of Spades. This one held one of many maps. This one of an area just south of the DMZ, one that revealed the location of a stash worth millions. He'd been promised a commission, and Solitaire never broke a promise. The thing is, there were decks of cards roaming around. It was easy, everything happening right out in the open. There were decks of exclusively aces of spades, used to intimidate the Viet Cong in the same way he'd just used one on Gary. There were decks arranged in certain order to pass coded messages, a brilliant method that had only failed him once. A soldier had taken a deck from his desk without permission to start a game of poker. Unfortunately, that soldier died in battle shortly thereafter. And then there were decks that were filled with maps, the cards hiding information that led to locations all over Vietnam, and some stashes in the States, cards that promised those who held them, and knew what they were, more money than most would ever know what to do with. The tens were special. Jack, his reverie was broken by the man in the hole. I need help. I have some debts. I know. Debts to Solitaire, gambling mostly. Fucking horses. Seems like I can never win on 'em, Gary continued as if Jack had not spoken. So he waited. I need them to be gone, yeah, but I need a new stake too, or something. If I don't come up with some money soon, I'm going to lose the house, and then my wife is going to leave me for sure. If Solitaire were going to give you another stake, as you put it, how would they be assured that you won't just gamble it away, and we'd be back in this position a few months from now? Well, You called it a stake, Gary, not seed money or a loan. I know, and you know, what you would do with any cash you get at this point. Isn't that my business? Not anymore. You can't borrow more from Solitaire, Gary. Your credit's no good. That means if you lose all your money, your wife, everything, you might become a desperate man. And we can't have someone desperate running around who knows our secrets. You understand? But Jack, here's the deal. The only deal you're going to get, so listen up, okay? Because I can be a good salesman, Gary, but this shit here, it sells itself. I'm listening. You get out of this hole. You go to Gamblers Anonymous, wherever you need to get help. You work the program, make your amends, all that. Your debt with Solitaire is canceled, wiped out. All you have to do is hand me the card you have. What if I sweeten the deal? Gary, honest to God, I'm getting tired of just standing here. When I get tired, my trigger finger sometimes gets a little bit itchy. You understand? Yeah, but Jack, I really have something you might be interested in. The card, Gary. But now. Fine. Okay, just don't shoot, all right? Jack nodded, but raised his pistol slightly again. Gary reached as if to grab something from his back pocket, but his hand appeared holding a gun. He fired. His first shot went wild, and Jack heard a bullet ricochet off something metal, something behind him and over his head. His second shot did not miss. A hole appeared in Gary's forehead, and brains decorated the hole behind him. Wrong move, Jack said. He hopped down into the hole, careful not to step in any of the mess, and carefully rolled the body over. There was no card in the back pocket, or anywhere he could see on the body. Damn it. He tossed the damaged and shortened shovel to the ground above, and then pulled at Gary's feet. The body flopped into the center of the hole, and Jack used his arms to propel him up and out. There was only one other place the card would be, somewhere Gary would have been able to come back and get it later. He cut the twine on the human bundle, and the smell hit him like a hammer. This wasn't a fresh corpse. It was at least 2 or 3 days old, but he saw the card as soon as the plastic slipped aside. Gary clearly hadn't wanted the valuable card to be damaged by the decomposing body. Jack didn't blame him. He picked it up and slid it into his back pocket, and then kicked the wrapped body into the hole. It landed on Gary with a thud. Moving the body revealed a bag of lime, and Jack opened it with a shovel and dumped it in the hole. Good boy for Gary being prepared. He then raised the shovel, reduced in leverage by the severed handle, to scoop the piled dirt into the hole. Nearly an hour and a gallon of sweat later, the hole was full, even heaping a little bit. Jack compacted the dirt the best he could with the shovel in his boots, then brushed over it to disguise the freshness of the dig. There were some branches nearby, probably another preparation from Gary, and Jack used them to cover the gravesite. A quick glance showed him everything looked to be as good as he could make it in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night. The hike back to the car took longer than the hike in. It was darker, and he didn't want to use his flashlight to reveal his position. It did make him wonder where Gary had parked, and how soon his vehicle would be discovered. That wasn't his problem. He was a soldier with orders, and he'd followed them. Nearly 20 minutes later, he found his car exactly where he'd left it, with no one nearby. The pullout he'd used earlier was dark, but a streetlight not far down the road offered some light. After unlocking the door and getting in, Jack sat there for a moment. He'd killed before, but never quite like this, and never for these reasons. He pushed himself up so he could pull the card from his back pocket, but it wasn't there. He felt around the seat. Nothing. He got out of the car and looked inside. The card hadn't fallen out of his pocket there. He popped open the glove box and took out a flashlight, using it to search the ground around the car. No card. The Ten of Spades, the thing he had come for, even killed for, was missing. Damn it, he thought. It must have fallen out while I was digging. He turned to go back the way he'd come. The card could literally be anywhere along the way, or worse, in the grave. And time wasn't on his side. The victim's car was somewhere nearby, and he had no idea where or how long it would be before someone spotted it. He had to take the chance. Jack walked quickly, scanning the path he'd taken to get to his car as he went. Nothing. If he didn't find it at the gravesite, he would have to go slower on his way back to the car. He came out into the area where the fresh dirt was and pulled the branches aside. He started to brush dirt away, and there it was. The white and red of the card. He snatched it from the earth and covered the grave up once more. He swung his flashlight around one more time, just to make sure he hadn't missed anything. Then he saw it. The glint of light off a chrome bumper. Shit. Stepping carefully around the grave, he saw about 20 yards away what he hadn't before. There was a van parked there, one that almost looked like a former ambulance. Painted white and red, the only thing it lacked was a siren bar. One of the back doors hung open. Jack moved to close it. Then he froze. Embedded in the steel of the inside of the door was a bullet. This was where the errant shot went. This was where the sound of the shot striking metal had come from. And this meant that the police, whoever found the van, would conduct a much more thorough search for the vehicle's owner, which would reveal a grave and 2 bodies, one unidentified. Quickly he closed the back door and hurried to the driver's seat. Keys hung in the ignition. Fortunately, the driver hadn't put them in his pocket, now 6 feet under a pile of dirt. Jack started the van, popped on the headlights, and swung it around in a U-turn. The twin yellow beams revealed a rugged pair of tracks through the nearby fields, and he followed them. 10 minutes later, he found himself on the paved road about a quarter mile from where his car was parked. He turned right. He needed to find a location to stash the van and make his way back to his car. Tired already, Jack knew he faced an exceptionally long night. Thanks for listening to the Solitaire Series, Episode 21, The Ten of Spades. Stay tuned for the next episode and Part 2 in The Seven of Spades.